most important part of self-care is positive thoughts towards yourself and self-love, and talking to yourself as if you were your best friend, because you are your best friend. That is really deep self-care.
Welcome to the Inspired to Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Phoebe Lay, and in each episode, I will be sharing with you insights from either an inspiring person or myself to help you thrive and shine online and in person. We talk about all things marketing, relationships, money, business, growth, mindset, and more. So thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you inspired to thrive. Hello and welcome back to the show, everybody. I am so looking forward to this exciting episode where I've got a good friend of mine and also an internationally published award-winning personal branding photographer, Ksenia Belova, here at Inspire to Thrive and Shine. This amazing woman is not only an NLP master practitioner, but she's also a best-selling author, a speaker, mentor, and she intuitively helps entrepreneurs share their passion and purpose through vibrant, personality-rich storytelling photos that instantly stand out and welcome in clients. This amazing lady is profound. She is a personal development coach, and her personal development journey combined with her life coaching qualifications has made our conversations not only remarkable, but it makes me very excited to share what we have to talk about today. So Ksenia, welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. I am very excited. Let's dive in.
So it's so good to not only have this streaming live, but also to be sharing with our audience a side of you that has evolved so much since the last episode. The last time we had you on our podcast was actually in season 1. It was International Women's Day, I believe 2022 or 23.
It was exactly 3 years ago. I had a memory coming up actually yesterday.
Wow. How fast time flies. I mean, you have done so much in the last couple of years, and I'd love to start off by hearing what led you down the personal development journey and how did you, get into that? Because that has obviously equipped you to provide so much more than photography and personal branding, which is already something that you were doing so well a few years back.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. I love everything that is personal development, learning about yourself, growing. Growth is actually one of my most important values. So for me, the more I grow, the more I'm happy, the more fulfillment I feel, because again, it feels like, there's so many things that we don't know, and very often we don't know what we don't know. And the more you learn about yourself, you realize the less you know. And this is super exciting. So in short, my personal development journey actually started from my divorce officially, which again sounds a little bit weird, but it is because, with every separation comes a lot of questioning. And so I started to question myself, and I guess I was already ready to kind of explore more, because I ended up in a situation where I was by myself and I had to rely on myself. And because I came to Australia with, now my ex-husband, I had to reevaluate everything and see who Ksenia actually is, not just, the wife of my ex-husband. And so this is how it all started. The moment I put the thought into the universe, because I had no idea about anything. I haven't even heard the term personal development. So I'm talking about 5 years ago. And in that moment, once I put it out in the universe, just show me the signs, what do I have to do? I started meeting incredible people who were building my awareness into, you can do this, you can do this. And I started a very profound healing journey I did a lot of different modalities. I started with kinesiology that helped me a lot to really, I guess, deal with my anger, because I had a lot of anger that came out of my divorce. And so and then it just kept going and going. I'm like, wow, there is the whole world behind there. And so this is how it all started. And I've never stopped. I've done so many different things. And during lockdowns, I have completed first the practitioner NLP course. Then I became a master practitioner. I did it for myself, but I didn't realize how much it would help me in my job, because obviously working with people, people skills are very important. That connection, that really listening skills and tapping into people's energy. So it's kind of all around.
Wow, you are so amazing, Ksenia. I'm always so inspired by you.
Thank you.
And, you touched on your divorce, and I believe that everyone goes through these, crisis moments or big change before discovering the world of personal development. And it's a catalyst. It's such an amazing catalyst for change. So many people hear, divorce, and they go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, da da da. How did you bounce forward so far? Like from going through that, like what were some of the things that you experienced before you started to bounce forward?
I guess it wasn't a fast process because I had to process so many things. And I asked myself so many questions. I went into a bit of a crisis, a bit of identity crisis, because it was kind of, I had the two parts that I had to combine. One was the identity that I had before, and another one was the identity that was actually me. Because very often in the past, I had to my choice, I was putting a mask, because I used to be a huge people pleaser. Yeah, I think many people can relate with that. And so I was playing different roles, but in doing this, I have lost myself, because I could not see who I am at the core. And that was a big dark moment as well, because you're like, wow, okay, I've done all of this time for such a long time. And then I actually have options, and I can discover who I really am. That's an exciting process, but also very painful, because there's so much conditioning, so many thoughts behind it, because sometimes when you're used to doing things, you just don't even think that you can do things differently. But I guess I approached it with an curious and open mind. And I was peeking into, wow, okay, that's actually exciting. Like, let's see where it can take me. And I guess this would be also my advice for anyone who is just starting their personal development journey, not to put pressure on yourself. Time frames, everyone has different timing. Everyone has different way of processing things and of dealing with things. So just really take it easy, and with a lot of self-love and self-care, and just see, and again, curiosity and open mind, just like, okay, let's just look into this. Some things might work, some things might not work, but it's beautiful journey, especially when you get to the point where you just feel really worthy, you feel confident, and you're like, I'm unstoppable. I'm actually an awesome human being. And that's that point that it took me a few years to get there, because I had a lot of insecurities, a lot, and I hated my body, and I had a lot of negative talk about myself, a lot. Like, I've realized once I've started doing the work, and I'm like, wow, like I was so unfair, and so it made me feel really sad toward myself. I had to work a lot on forgiving myself for treating myself in a way that I was not, but this was the only thing that I knew. I didn't know any better.
Wow, that is so profound, because similar to yourself, especially in my 20s, going through like one of my first ever breakups made me realize how toxic some of those thoughts I had towards myself were. And I remember, around 24 years old, being told I was fat because I was probably like maybe 4 or 5 more than my stabilized weight now. And I was being told I was overweight. I think I was like 60 kilos or something like that. I had all these like insecurities about myself. I didn't know how to dress to look and feel good. My boyfriend back then was telling me I was always dressed conservatively. Like, why don't you dress sexier like the girls your age or something like that? It was, and this is like 10 years ago. But I think it's amazing that when you go through a breakup, I'm just speaking for myself, but I think a lot of people tend to either start to do really well because they're put into a place where they have to start to reevaluate the way they were doing life, and they need to change their mindset, their self-talk, their routine. Some people get onto a really great health kick. Some people go on this amazing personal development journey. I mean, there's so many different things that people do that will improve themselves and help them come out of a breakup and do really well. What would you say to people that are going through that stage that you mentioned, the anger or the resentment, whether it's to themselves or to their ex? What would you say to men or women that are at that stage right now listening?
Releasing those feelings and not suppressing them. That's very, very important. Like really do something, like even simple things, such as going in the middle of the mountain, the field, and just shout it. Like really, like, yeah. And just really feel that, just feel the feelings. Because we are so afraid of feeling, especially negative emotions, but we hold them in our body. And so the more you release them, the less you have them. And again, it's a lot of processing, and because anger and grief, they all come together. The sadness, these are all the emotions that come together with any breakup or any end of any relationship or any unsuccessful venture. Like it's kind of the same feelings if you think about it. What's important is to see the learnings, because in every situation there are learnings, multiple ones, and everything has a purpose. So I keep repeating myself, whenever anything negative happens in my life, it has a purpose. So I'm actually okay with it. And so I'm just sitting with it. And I'm like, okay, yes, I feel this. I label my emotion and say, okay, I feel anger. That's okay. That's fine. I'm human. I'm allowed to feel whatever I feel. I validate myself. I don't need external validation. I validate myself. I hold myself. I tell my little girl, Ksenia, just, it's okay. That's fine. Don't judge yourself, because I used to judge myself so much. And I suppressed so much in my life because that was the only thing that I knew. I didn't have, role models that could show me that I could express my emotions. I always had to be a good girl. And so to answer your question, yes, feeling the feelings, the emotions, and get external help. Because sometimes, very often, we are so overwhelmed that we need guidance, whether it's a life coach, whether it's any healing modality. It can be NET, kinesiology, it can be tapping, it can be literally anything. And for everyone, different things work. And I've tried pretty much all of them. And then you keep stacking. And so the more you do different things, the more you become stronger and stronger. And then you just realize that all those feelings were just emotions. Like it's easier to say when to say it to someone. Now, usually I would never, if someone is going through a tough time and they have those emotions sitting in them, I would never try even to reframe them that much. Sometimes people just need to talk it through. Talk to your friends. Talk to someone who really can hold space for you without trying to fix anything. That's very important, because sometimes when we talk through things, we get our own answers. And also owning and taking responsibility for your actions, because things never happen just on one side. It's always both sides. And really owning, like, yep, I made a mistake here. Yeah, I could have done this better. Again, learnings. So always seeing the deeper purpose. It's easy to see it once the hurricane is over. When you're in the middle of the eye, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? But just really breathing. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. It's part of the game. It's part of life, part of my journey. It will take me somewhere else. Like my divorce was the best thing that happened to me.
I love what you've just shared. There are so many takeaways from that. You talked about emotional processing, acknowledging and recognizing the pain that pretty much, I think, validates the experience of what the person is going through, whether it's a breakup, a divorce, or leaving a job or leaving a company or closing down a business. It's really important to understand your feelings and understand that they're legitimate and that you're worthy of paying attention to that, worthy of fully experiencing the pain or expressing the pain. I think that what you said about the healthy release of going out into a field, like I used to say to my partner, roll down, like, because we used to drive to Sydney a lot. And I used to say to him, can you wind down the window and just say, F them, like, F them, F them, until we giggled and we cried, because it's such powerful release. We literally would like be driving down the Hume Highway or middle of nowhere and just screaming out the window, and it was such good release, especially for him. But for me, mine was more like tears of joy, tears of sorrow, tears of grief, because I think suppressing emotions can ultimately lead to clinical, like anxiety, depression, and clinical or mental health issues. And a lot of unresolved emotions can manifest physically as well in symptoms like fatigue, migraines, headaches, other stress-related conditions. So, yeah, I love that you shared, how important it is to understand and learn and self-reflect. It's such a catalyst for growth and really pushes you to develop some amazing coping mechanism, which I think is great for letting go and, going through that healing process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100% agree with you. And while you were talking, I just had this little example that came into my mind. So when during lockdowns and I was grieving a lot of, life that we didn't have anymore, and I was going through another breakup and I started creating artwork, and that I still have that beautiful piece of dried flowers. I did like an artwork, and I look at it and it reminds me, how beautiful can pain be?
Yeah.
And I remember when I was doing it, I was like, wow, I'm actually so lucky. I can feel it. I can feel pain, because everything is balanced. We can't always just feel happiness. It wouldn't be sustainable. It's not okay, like, to just be happy, because then when you feel that pain, when you feel that hurt, you're like, okay, that's exactly the opposite side of happiness, and it makes you appreciate happiness even more. So that artwork, I have it in my bedroom, and it constantly reminds me the beauty in pain, which again might sound like really, what are you talking about? But that's what it was for me. So really transforming that into beauty, because feeling is good. Being numb, and I've experienced it previously in my life too. Numb, like neutral, nothing, not happy, not sad, nothing. For me, I felt dead inside, because I'd rather have the highs and lows, because then I feel like I'm in the flow of life.
And you're
I feel
alive.
alive.
Yeah.
But the numbness was horrible. It was horrible.
What do you think contributes to not feeling the numbness that you were talking about? Like what role does self-care or healing, what role does it play in the process of helping people deal with the grief of ending something?
Self-care is everything, and also self-care not just tangible. So it's not about wearing nice clothes and feeling good or going shopping or having a massage. For me, the most important part of self-care is positive thoughts towards yourself and self-love, and talking to yourself as if you were your best friend, because you are your best friend. That is really deep self-care, because you don't need all the tangible things. Like in reality, you can do without, because these are some superficial things that we think, okay, when we do it, we feel good. It does make us feel good, but it's external. The moment you get that self-care and self-love internally, that's when it really just makes a huge difference.
I totally agree. I think that, like it's not just about taking a bath or, like you say, shopping or a massage or going on a trip away. It's really about how you show up. Like for me personally, I think my best self-care when, in my breakups has been when I've believed in myself and my business and what I do with so much conviction that I keep working on my goals, like my purpose, understanding that and not deterring from my purpose, and developing self-esteem and confidence. I think so many people come out of a breakup or the loss of a job or the loss of a business, and they need to rebuild their self-esteem and confidence. So I think, the best self-care are activities that prove to your unconscious and conscious mind that you have what it takes. And it could be activities that reaffirm that you're heading down the right direction. Could be physical activities, but definitely self-care activities and self-talk and reaffirming, positive thinking is particularly beneficial.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would also add to that being really compassionate to yourself. And there is a very good practical tool that everyone can do, and especially when they're going through tough time, but not necessarily. You can do it anytime. So you can take a piece of paper and write down 100 achievements that you've done in your whole life. It can be small thing. It can be helping, a homeless person and getting them $5. It doesn't matter. But you collect all the achievements and you collect the evidence of how great you are. Because it seems like 100 is a lot, but it's actually not. Once you start writing them, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, a huge win. Anything that made you feel good about yourself. Oh, yes, I'm a good person. I did this. So the moment you look at that list, especially while you're experiencing something negative, you're like, wow, okay, I'm actually good. And it helps you to create and to build up that confidence and the self-worth. So and this is so easy, like everyone can do it.
I love that. I think that is such a good exercise. It might even be in one of the like KKK, there may even be a KKK journal that specifically does that activity. And I remember, in my 20s getting a lot of, I guess, KKK related journals and, things that helped me to write about like my 100 goals or my 100 dreams. If nothing could fail and everything would go your way, what would be 100 things you would want to do in your life? Planning these things that make you look forward to the future rather than holding on to the past, because it's very easy to hold on to the good times, especially after a breakup or like I said, loss of a job or something, like to hold on to those good times. But it's actually something that you can still have with other people in other ways. It would look different and it will be unfamiliar and heck, it will be scary. But, I think it's very, very reassuring to know that happiness and joy isn't delivered through one person in one way. And life can be beautiful in so many different forms and with so many different settings. So I feel like this episode really applies not just to, it could even be that you're going through a transition in life. Maybe you're like moving to a new country or a new city. You know, you're letting go of everything that you've ever known. So many of these changes can become a positive opportunity for personal growth.
Yeah.
Ksenia, I'd love to know, can you help us with some strategies to turn negative thoughts that arise or negative experiences into something positive, whether it's reframing or, a positive outlook? What are some techniques that you've used to reframe negative thoughts?
Well, reframing is everything. I do reframing on a regular basis with my own thoughts and with other people, because I can hear their language and I'm like, okay, let's see how we can reframe it. So, for example, very simple thing that sometimes, well, not sometimes, but very often we tell ourselves when we're doing something new, oh, that's difficult. I can't do this. Why don't we reframe it into, I haven't mastered it yet. I'm learning. It feels differently, isn't it? And it's just that energy about it, with like open energy. Okay, I'm learning. That's okay. That's something new that, I'm doing. But then also looking for evidence. Again, the list can be one of the things. So looking for evidence, but I've done something new before. And I managed to do it, and I was really good at it. So that also helps to set yourself in that positive mindset, because we are not born knowing things. We learn while we go, and we put so much pressure on ourselves. And that's one of the things and it's also our society, and everything is so fast paced, and we just have to, create. We have to build our empires and stuff. It's just like overwhelming. Come on, give me a break. I just want to, I want to have like a nice and relaxed life. So it's also that compassion that comes into you. That's okay. Like, you're good. You've done this. You're a good person. You are doing good for others. There are quite a few different strategies. I guess reframing is the big one, and is the easiest one. It's very important to be aware of what's going on in your head. You don't need to really overanalyze it and overthink it, because whatever is going in your head is okay. It's valid. So again, not having judgment. Look, I don't personally believe in affirmations as such, unless you really feel them deeply. But repeating yourself, I am worthy, I'm worthy, and just keep repeating it as many times, as often as you like, until it gets into your core, into your soul. And again, all the courses and all the personal development helps, because feeling unworthy is one of the biggest root causes of everything. So the moment you really tap into that, and again, it's a lot of work. It doesn't come in a day. You don't wake up, oh yeah, I'm worthy. No, it does not, unfortunately. It's a lot of little
decades.
steps. Yeah, I wish it was that easy. But
I
because
wish there was a magic pill that you could just wake up and just take it, and you'd just wake up feeling worthy. I mean, hopefully not over the top and going narcissistic, but yeah, I think that's something really important that you mentioned, because unworthiness, I think, is something that develops in childhood, and it happens in the way your parents talk to you. It could be that, or your school teacher or someone said something that made you feel really small, and that inner child kind of never goes away. So what are some signs that someone is feeling unworthy? What are some of the ways I can start to develop that worthiness muscle?
Well, feeling unworthy can be fear of doing pretty much anything new, thinking that you will fail because you don't believe in yourself, and you feel like that you don't deserve this success, or you don't deserve earning good money, or that you're not feeling worthy of a beautiful relationship. or of a beautiful home, whatever you can think of. Yeah, it's that feeling of I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And I always have to do something to be enough.
Yeah.
And really push yourself. Pushing yourself is great, but with boundaries.
Well,
Because
I agree. Like, and I will speak for myself here. I used to find it really hard to stop. I would work all day, until right up until bedtime. There was always stuff to do. Even when I was doing my personal development work, I remember it was like, okay, now I've got to journal. Now I've got to meditate. Now I've got to do this. Now I've got to make a bath. Now I've got to clean the house. And it was so much doing and not enough being, which for me was a sign that, I felt like doing more would, make me more lovable. And, so sorry to cut you off there, but that's for me personally.
I've been there too. Yeah, absolutely. I went on a tangent for probably doing 4 years of nonstop work on myself because I felt like, oh my God, I can do more, I can do more, I can do more. But then I got burnt out. And so now I'm in the phase of integration because I realized that I was doing courses and doing healings and I was relying on other people to fix me. And for me, it was a big like, oh, wow, okay, I actually didn't take ownership of me doing the work, of me applying what I've learned. Because in theory, with words and in my brain, my logical brain, I knew a lot. I could do a lot of things and I could talk intelligently. But then deep inside, I did not apply I was not walking my talk. And when it hit me, I was like, oh my God, oh, there it is. So I stopped doing it because now I'm like, okay, let me go through what I've done and actually apply it into my life. Because how can I tell someone what to do or advice to give if I actually don't do it myself? I'm all about authenticity. And I felt like a fraud. I'm like, why am I just like trying again to be that intelligent, to be that like, oh, you're so cool. But inside I was like, I was like very, very lacking so much confidence because it was like a facade. And so now I'm like, no, now I'm taking time and just diving deep. And I'm doing a lot of shadow work as well, which is really deep. It's a lot of ego work that comes out so much. So I'm so aware of what's happening in my brain. And when it gets too much in my brain, I tap back into my heart. And as you mentioned, stop doing and start feeling and start being present, which I find it so, so hard because I'm a workaholic. I love living life at my fullest. I'm all in everything. So it's really like, I find it really hard, but I stop and I just see how much it benefits me because I'm just like being present, being in the moment, really enjoying it rather than looking forward to, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because that's again, it's part of the condition in society, like pushing yourself. It's like, no, I actually want to enjoy my state of life now.
That is so true, what you've just shared. I'm now even thinking about like how I was yesterday when, I caught up with a bunch of girlfriends that I've known for over a decade. And one of my friends had a baby dedication and we went out for coffee afterwards. And I remember, even editing the photo so that it was, nice and like the color and all of that. And I'm sending it into the group and I was so focused on sending the photos into the group so that the girls overseas could share the moment with us rather than being present in the moment. So you even talking about this makes me go, oh my gosh, like it's very hard to be aware of it all the time, but we do it. And when we, the more we can be aware of it, the more we have awareness of it, the more we can make significant changes, even if it's small ones that lead to long-term significant life change. And I think how we create, for example, new routines, small little changes will support healing and growth. For me, like one of my biggest indications that I was beginning to love and accept myself a lot more was when I moved out and started living on my own. And I started to say to myself, like I've always lived with someone, whether it's family or my partner or housemates. But it was when I said to myself, I am worthy of taking up the entire space to myself, having my own office, my own, room, living room, the whole house to myself. And I get to now do this on my terms. And that was for me one of the biggest indicators of, yes, I am worthy of this. Like I could always afford it, always had the finances for it, but it was choosing me and going, even though budget wise, it might not, like expense wise, it might not make as much sense as splitting it in half with someone, but I'm worthy of this time of growth, of inner growth, personal development, healing, and having space to myself. So
Oh, I love it so much. When you said choosing me, that's like, yes. And you know what happens? The moment you really choose you, the universe will give you so much more, because you are not blocking it anymore, because we are what we think. So the more I have that abundance mindset, the more I get things happening in my life. And this is for everyone. And the more I hold myself back and I think small, I feel that I am small. And again, coming back to not feeling worthy, the universe will say, okay, that's what you're telling me. I won't deliver you. It's actually very simple. It's
so
more
true.
simple than people think, because we give the universe all the guidance without thinking about it. But because we're all energy, we project those thoughts. So if you have positive thoughts, but really feeling saying positive thoughts, but not feeling the positive thoughts, that's incongruence. It's that alignment between the head and the heart. So once that happens, everything is just so easy. You just look at everything with different eyes. You see all the beauty around yourself. You attract incredible people. It's just so magical the moment it happens. And I really wish everyone could get to that point, because sometimes we're so attached to our past. We are so attached to our story because it keeps us safe.
That is so true. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love, love, love what you're sharing. To add to that, in order to attract, right? I mean, some people use the word attract, some people use manifestation. We need to first be able to feel, like we need to start acting and behaving like that man or woman who already has the thing that we desire or want. For example, if you want to be a wildly successful CEO, I'm not saying you need to go and start buying first class tickets when you fly and overspending and maxing out your Amex and using money that's not yours. But you need to start making decisions that show that your time is worthy. So for example, if sometimes there's something that's going to cost more, but it's going to save you time, you need to take up that option. If you're going to need to outsource something so that someone does the little things that drive you crazy, that take up so much time, you need to spend and hire that person, outsource whatever thing or task that you don't want to do, because that's how you start showing up as a man or woman who attracts. And, I think manifestation comes through how you feel and also being able to visualize. It's being able to see, feel, know that it is coming, that if you have that thought and that desire, you already have the innate ability to create that into reality. And it really starts from belief and starts from you.
Absolutely. And everything we can visualize is possible. It's just sometimes we're so scared to go bigger, because fear of success can be bigger than fear of failure. And this is what I've discovered in my experience. I'll give you a little tool, if I may, also in visualization, and it's from NLP. It's a goal setting exercise. So you can sit, you can close your eyes and sit. So imagine what you want to do, right? Like you want to set yourself a particular goal. It has to be a SMART goal, so achievable. It has to be measurable and within a particular time frame. Usually I suggest to do it within 2 or maximum 6 months, or maybe a year if it's something bigger, but it's good to have like the shorter time frame. And then you think of the last thing that has to happen for you to realize that this goal has been achieved. So for example, to give you a simple example, I want to earn, I don't know, $500,000. Like it has to be obviously achievable. It's not just like, like you have to do your calculations. So let's say $500,000. Okay. So what has to happen for me to know that I've done that? I look at it has to be very specific. I look at my screen on my phone or screen on my computer. And for example, I look at Xero, the accounting software, and I see the actual revenue. I see 500,000, right? Or whatever number that you want to put there. So you really visualize it. You see how it looks like, where you are sitting. What's the setting? Are you in your office? Are you, I don't know, at a cafe or somewhere? You really, with your eyes closed, you visualize what kind of lighting. Is it day? Is it night? Are there any smells? Do you hear anything, the birds or someone chatting? So really visualizing in the smallest details. And then you really feel everything on all senses. So the smell, the hearing, the visually how it looks like. And then you just amplify everything. And you put it all in a bubble. So first you look at it through your eyes, then you dissociate yourself. So as if you were looking at yourself from a movie. So you're looking at the same scene, but as if it was someone else, through someone else's eyes. You put this picture in a bubble and you bring it to the future and just observe without knowing. You don't have to know it because it's all symbolic. You observe all the things that will be happening from today until those 6 months, a year, whatever you decide the time frame is, all the things that will happen to align with your goal. And then so you see that you can do it for anything. You're getting on stage and you visualize, okay, people clapping, or people just so excited. So you can do it literally with anything. So that's such an amazing and simple tool to do. I did it very short because it's more like a 15, 20-minute kind of meditation, but it's amazing. It works wonders.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is such gold. Honestly, like you are giving us so many gifts in so many different packages. What you've just shared is a tool that people that take this away and actually take this into action, you will seriously start seeing change and significant things happening. And I love that so much. Ksenia, I want to fast forward a little bit to talking about dealing with specific types of change. Some people obviously go through so many different things, losing a partner, losing a family member, losing a pet, relationships ending, like we said before, moving to a new place. What are some coping mechanisms that people can do immediately that will help them to cope with the grief and handle the grief?
Well, grief is a really big topic. Everyone grieves differently. And I personally don't believe in shortcutting grief because you have to process it. I don't believe there are any particular external tools to deal with grief immediately. You just sit with it and you sit with your pain. That's my personal experience and my personal opinion. I'm sure there will be other opinions. So again, everyone is different and some people need to talk through things. Some people shut themselves down and they just process things within themselves. That's me. But if you need to talk about it and just voice what you feel, again, as I've said at the very beginning of our recording, talking to people who you trust, who create a safe space for you without judgment, and just, I call it emotional vomit, and just literally just crying and talking and, just saying everything that's on your mind. No, you don't need any fixing, because no words, no refrain can help grief. You just need someone who stays there and they're like, okay, I'm here for you, without giving advice, because we all tend to help. We want to help, but we actually don't help, because you don't know what that person is going through, because we only project what we know through our experience and through our feelings. So you have to be really careful for those who will be holding space for people who are grieving. You have to be really careful not to project your thoughts.
Oh my gosh, so true. I love that.
And holding
not
space is magical. You need to do it really with your heart. It's not easy, but it's not difficult either. It's really just being in presence. Very often people just need to talk. That's it. To tell it to someone. You can journal. Journaling is amazing, and you can put all your thoughts, all your feelings, emotions, everything you can just put on paper, because that's releasing. It's part of that letting go. But again, there is no shortcut for grief, especially with people or pets passing away.
Yeah, and I would add to that and say, I think it's really important for the person who's holding space, or for the person who's choosing the person that they are sharing with, that they choose very, very wisely.
Yeah.
Because the person that's holding space needs to have no agenda.
Yes.
No agenda for where they want you to be, who they want you to be with next, want your life to look like. Some people have an agenda. It could be a really good friend. It could be someone that might be, I don't know, but there are so many people that can sometimes project what they want for the other person. And it may come from a good place, but it's not what the person is needing at that moment. And I truly think that sometimes a professional, someone who can hold space for you, that is a professional, whether it's a counselor, a coach, or a therapist, or a psychologist, whatever you might call it. I think sometimes having someone that is not attached to your life, that is not a friend, not a family member, not related to the person that you've lost, or not related to, anything, is really good, because then they won't be saying things like, oh yeah, how good was this, or how horrible was that, whether positive or negative. I don't think the person going through grief needs that. Like what you said so well, so eloquently, they just need someone that will hold space and listen.
And I would also add to this, you can ask if you are the person holding space, and it can be for anything, it can be for grief or just, to talk. Ask one question, very simple question. How can I support you right now? Do you need a hug? Because some people don't want to be touched, even if they're close friends. Because what we tend to do, we feel empathy, we feel compassion, and we're like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. People don't need this.
Absolutely.
So ask them, what do you need right now? Shall I just sit here? Shall I don't know, shall we go shopping together? Like, just ask what the person needs. They will give you the answers. And that's the easiest way to support someone. But really, like, thinking about what they need and not projecting what you think they might need.
Yeah, so good. So good. I love that. And when it comes to getting through that grief, like people starting to now rise up, feeling the self-love, like empowerment, moving on, etc. I think there's a lot of times where there are certain things that might trigger a memory again, and trigger an emotion again, something that you just didn't know it was still there. It was underlying. It could be that you go to a place, or you smell a certain smell, and that triggers something. I think it's very important that no matter what comes up, that we know that, and we affirm to ourselves that we are going down the right path, down the right direction, and that it's okay. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. We'll get triggers all the time, or even triggers with some people who might trigger us. Like if we're not just talking about grief and about memories, that's one thing. You can't do anything without it. It's just part of it. I would say take these triggers, the grief triggers, the memories, as a blessing and appreciate that they were there. You've lived those moments, like really getting to that gratitude space. And if someone triggers you in life and you meet a person and they're like, oh my God, I just feel that, oh, why are they triggering me so much? I love my triggers. I love when people trigger me. I'm not getting triggered as much as I used to be because, again, with all the work that I've been doing. But when I get my triggers, I love them because everything that triggers you is in you and all the parts that you haven't accepted in you, which is really powerful. Or on the opposite side, when you give a compliment to someone and you truly admire something in someone, you said, oh my God, you're so radiant, you're so positive, you're so beautiful. Just accept that compliment with grace, like really receive it. And for the person who is giving that compliment or thinking that about someone, it's because they have that in themselves. They just might not have unlocked it yet. If sometimes, you hear, oh, I wish I could be this, I admire this in you, or this, you're just so free and stuff. But if you admire that it's in you, it's just sitting a little bit deeper and you can unlock it, because otherwise you wouldn't have seen it. You wouldn't have noticed it. So it works both ways, positive, like on triggering and on admiration.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Ksenia, thank you so much for all the golden nuggets that you've shared with us today. It has been such a truly wonderful conversation with so many different tools, different frameworks that people can literally use straight away and will help them through the journey of personal development, of growing, of manifesting what they truly want, of living the life that's congruent with who they want to be, and also getting through, some of the difficult times that we all go through in life, whether it's grief, loss, whatever it is, getting through difficult challenges and emotions. Ksenia,
Amazing. Thank you. I loved our conversation. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity also to, to show up and to share whatever might be useful for people. And even if we can touch 1, 2, 3, 5 people and they will get something out of it, that's it. That's the purpose.
I love that. But before we wrap this up, I want to actually go through the rapid fire questions, which you've probably already had before in our previous episode. But the purpose of this exercise is for the listeners to get to know you even more. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and all you have to do is share with me your first answer that comes up at the top of your head.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Ksenia, if there was one thing you cannot live a single day without, whether it's a physical object or a non-physical thing, what would it be?
The bath.
Lucky you. I love that. That's something new. It's always good when you have a bath at home, isn't it?
And I've never had a bath in my whole life until I moved to the new place. So now I'm living in my bath.
The dream. What or who inspired you to do what you do today?
Personal fulfillment and transformational, making a difference in people's lives.
Was there something that triggered that? Was there someone or something that made you realize, wow, I want to make a difference in other people's lives?
I guess the first moment I understood it when I did my first shoot with a lady, and it was just for her to see herself beautifully. I just saw it and I felt how she felt and what she shared with me and how transformational it was for her to see herself in the beauty, in the real beauty, and see her soul. And from there, I'm like, wow, there is so much more that I can do, because I used to do fashion photography that was, it was fun, but it did have no depth at all. And so the moment I experienced that first shoot, that was about probably 8 years ago, I was like, okay, I need to really go deeper, because the feeling that I got from impacting someone's life and someone's vision about themselves, that was the most powerful feeling.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Okay, number 3, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? What do you want to have accomplished, or where do you want to be?
I'm not really attached to any particular goals, because I believe that sometimes they can limit us, because they might be different opportunities. But I guess I want to see myself on stage, and I want to do more impacting more people at the same time, mentoring, helping businesses grow, and helping photographers as well with their self-worth, because creatives have very bad relationship with self-worth and charging for what they're worth. Yeah, just living the good life, keep doing what I'm doing, because I love my job so much with all my heart. And just really, building the community and being in that space of support, because I love supporting women. I love supporting women in business, see them grow. And so I guess that's very vague, but that's where I would be.
Wow, thank you. I love that. I'm also one that doesn't go too detail when I think about my 5-year goal or my 10-year goal. There are certain things I want to have achieved, like children or having a family or being married, but I don't even think I've got the location necessarily set, because that could happen in 1 year. For me, moving overseas, living somewhere else, is something that I've always wanted to do, but I've never really put a time frame on it, which I probably should. Okay, last rapid fire question. Well, second last is, what's one big takeaway you've had recently that changed the way you see the world?
Someone recently told me, we are not God, in terms of, so the context was, sometimes we want to help people and we hold them close to ourselves because we think we're responsible for their well-being. But what if by letting them go, they would have different opportunities? So it's that ego that I think I'm needed, or that person needs me. That was a big aha moment for me.
Wow, that's amazing. That is such a beautiful share. It's so true as well. That's a lot of food for thought.
Yeah, I had to process it, because it was like, oh, what are you saying? I'm coming with good intentions.
Yeah.
But again, it's that ego that I'm like, yeah, well, that person needs me. They can't, like, I am responsible for like whatever in that area, or their like work area or private life. But what if we're just holding them back?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you and I talked about this in one of our recent catch-ups, where sometimes we think we're helping someone, but are we actually, like, what is the intention behind that? It can, if you look at the underlying, some of the, I think you and I talked about secondary gains.
Yeah, we need another podcast for it.
Yes. Well, my last rapid fire question is, if you could leave the world with one message, what would it be?
You are enough, and you're worthy of love and all the abundance.
Profound.
Because
Ksenia,
then it covers everything.
it sure does. It absolutely does. And I hope that the listeners really gain from that and really let that one sink in. That's huge. Thank you so much, Xenia. You have been an amazing guest. I love this podcast episode so much. I cannot wait to share it. How can the listeners connect with you? What are your socials? Do you have anywhere that you want people in particular to connect with you? I'm going to guess Instagram, but I'm going to let you answer this one.
Yeah, so I am present everywhere. The easiest thing is to Google my name, Ksenia Belova, and there will be everything there, my Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I don't really use it. But Instagram, LinkedIn are my two big platforms, and my website. So the easiest thing, really, Google, just Google me.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time. And thank you to the listeners that have tuned in to this amazing episode that will inspire you to thrive and shine. For anyone that wants to connect with Xenia, make sure to visit her website or her socials. They will be in the show notes. Check out the full episode on YouTube as well, where the video recording will be uploaded. And again, Xenia, I love the journey that you've been on, the journey that you are on, and what you are about and what you are doing to make a difference in this world. Thank you so much for your time. And I cannot wait to not only release this episode, but for more juicy ones to follow.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.